Alright, g'day guys and welcome back to another episode. Bit of change of scenery today. I'm over in the windy city, Wellington, catching up with family and that. So got the ferry over the other day and just managing to sneak out for a dive. I was going to hit the south coast just off the main road. It just changed southerly today and even the harbour looks pretty nasty, so I don't think I'm going to head that way. I'm going to cut over the hill and head out to the west coast. It might still be dirty out there. We'll see. Into it. It's a good call coming out here. It's actually real flat and it should be clear enough, should get 5 or so meters. We are sport for choice here for shore diving spots, and because you've got such a huge body of water out there and lots of tidal movement, it clears up really quick. So even though it was blowing in here yesterday and for the past few days before that, it switched to southerly overnight and it's flattened right off. So hopefully it's clear enough to get a feed, because we need to get something for Sushi tonight. We'll see how we go out there. I'll find a spot to jump in where there's not too many other divers and we'll see what we can do. So we've got the Crocs in forward drive mode and we're making our way out. A couple of divers getting in there, so I'll go a bit further around and give them some space. Alright, that's me. You can pretty much just keep walking. And it probably only gets better, but this is good enough. Just get my gear sorted, have a drink of water, and then we'll jump in. After walking for what felt like forever, I finally got in the water to cool off. Straight away I noticed that the water was full of these salps. Now these might look like jellyfish, but they're far from it. They're actually a tunicate, and scientifically they're closer to a human than they are a jellyfish. There are many different species of salp and they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and I was lucky enough to bump into a few interesting specimens on this dive. They often form long chains and can grow up to meters long. These ones here look like it's spiraled up. These ones can get really long, and I found a big one later on. Beautiful things, very interesting, and they just sort of float around in the water and filter feed as they go. They also are a food source for fish like blue cod and other species. This is a nice long one here. They do get longer than this, but still a cool sight to see and a really strange creature. Although the water was quite clear, on the surface where there was lots of salps, it actually made it hard to see through the water. So it made for an interesting dive, but it made the conditions a bit more challenging than I was expecting. First things first, I found a nice bit of habitat that was worth putting down a ground berley. I broke up a bunch of kinners and decided to swim away and let it sit for a while and give the fish a chance to move in on it and come back to the spot later on to see if there was anything worth pulling the trigger on. While that berley was brewing, I moved in shallows and had a look for some crayfish, and I managed to stumble across a good patch of crays and grab myself a feed for tonight. While I was out looking around for crayfish, I kept my eyes open for some paua. Quite often in heavily dived areas, you'll find the bigger paua out a bit deeper and a bit more scarce, but you'll see them underneath the weed, in caves and in places that are generally overlooked. There was plenty of butterfish around, but butterfish weren't really on the species list for today, as I was really hoping for something that would lend itself to a feed of sushi. Butterfish is a delicious fish, but it's not very flavoursome and it can be quite bland and doesn't really work for a sushi dish. So I decided to leave these ones alone today, and they will provide a feed for someone else at a later date. As I was swimming around, a nice big school of kahawai came in. Now the thought process in my head was just to hold off and wait for a bit to see if there was something a bit bigger, like a kingfish chasing these fish. But as I saw the end of the school coming towards me, I quite quickly realised that that wasn't going to be the case today. So I decided to dive down and take one of these kahawai to go with our sushi dish later on. Soon after I'd scored a nice fat kahawai for dinner, I managed to stumble across this nice nest of little crayfish. None of them are really that big, but it was really cool to see such high numbers close to shore like this. And I absolutely love swimming around and looking at these nests. Quite often when you find one crayfish, there'll be many more around in that area, so it pays to take your time and look around, and sometimes you'll find one that's worth grabbing. I decided that was probably just enough food for us to get through tonight, so I left it at that and headed back in to make the long walk home. Alright, there's our catch. 3 crays, 4 Pauas, and check out this kahawai, man. Look at that thing. It's massive. Absolutely huge. Probably the biggest kahawai I've ever shot, so that's going to be perfect for the sushi to make what are they called? Nigiri sushi. That's going to be perfect for that. So it's pretty quiet on the fish front. I did see a couple of kingfish, but I was a bit too slow and they weren't hanging around, and saw the odd butterfish, but it's not really the best kind of fish for sushi, so I thought I'd take one of these bad boys while I had the opportunity. We've got a crayfish and some Paua, so it's going to be a pretty mean feed. Get out of here and prep this food for our sushi feast. I only grabbed a few Paua because there's easier spots to grab Paua, and I didn't want to be lugging a whole bunch of weight back along this beach. So I just grabbed enough for a feed today, and before I head back I'll jump in the water where it's a bit more easily accessible, and I'll get enough to take home. But there's no point doing it out here because you just make it hard for yourself walking back, because it's not easy walking on this shingle stuff. Now unfortunately for you guys, I didn't end up recording the rest of the evening because I was catching up with family. I don't see them very often, and it was nice to just turn the camera off and enjoy that moment for what it was. But we did make a nice feed of sushi. Everyone was really satisfied with that. The kahawai went down a treat. We made some crayfish nigiri, and they were absolutely delicious. So one day I will do a sushi spread again. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you like this video. If you do, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.